Houses hide secrets, secrets buried under the floor, hidden inside the walls, and sometimes watching you. The old house stood on a desolate cliff, overlooking a perpetually restless sea and a sky forever draped in clouds. It was not beautiful, but imposing, a fortress of weathered stone and aged wood, with windows like sunken eyes and an air of abandonment that drew Ilara in from the very first moment. After her husband's death, the noise of the city had become unbearable. She needed silence, isolation, and perhaps a place where her own grief could blend with the melancholy of the landscape without being judged. The real estate agent, a woman with a forced smile and nervous eyes, rushed the paperwork. "It's peculiar," she stammered, avoiding Ilara's gaze. "Some people say it has history." Ilara only nodded, her heart already captivated by the desolation and mystery. The price was absurdly low for such a large property, which only made her want it more. The house was not just a refuge, it was a promise of forgetting. The first days were peaceful. The sound of the sea drowned out the noise of her thoughts. The salty air filled her lungs, and long walks along the shore swept the dust from her soul. But with each passing day, the house began to whisper. At first, it was small noises, the creaking of floorboards, the wind groaning through the chimneys, easy to blame on the old structure or her imagination. Then came the music. A soft melody, barely audible, like an out-of-tune music box playing in the distance. Ilara heard it on the quietest nights, a childlike lullaby drifting from deep within the house. She walked the corridors, opened and closed doors, searched for cracks or hidden vents that might explain the sound. Nothing. The melody vanished whenever she tried to follow it, leaving only silence and the echo of her disbelief. One night, the music didn't stop. It was louder, clearer, and it was coming from below. Ilara went down to the kitchen, her heart pounding. The cold tiles seemed to vibrate with a spectral lullaby. She knelt and pressed her hand against the floor. One tile, right in the center of the kitchen, was slightly loose. With a butter knife and a flashlight, she pried it open. The tile lifted, revealing a small wooden hatch beneath. A rush of cold, damp air brushed her face, carrying the scent of wet earth and something else, something sweet and decayed. The music was stronger now. Beneath the hatch, rough stone steps descended into darkness. The flashlight trembled in her hand as she went down. The steps were uneven and slick. The smell grew heavier. The lullaby became overwhelming, strangely unfamiliar, yet hauntingly familiar. At the bottom, she found a small earthen chamber. The walls were made of ancient damp bricks streaked with mold. In the center, half buried in dirt, lay a dark wooden chest. The music was coming from inside it. With trembling hands, Ilara opened the lid. The sickly sweet smell filled the chamber. Her light fell on the contents: a yellowed lace baby dress, a tarnished silver rattle, and a broken porcelain music box that impossibly still played. Beneath them, wrapped in a blanket that crumbled at her touch, was something small, something that was not a doll. Ilara dropped the flashlight. A muffled scream caught in her throat. It was a baby's body, preserved by time and earth, skin stretched over fragile bones, empty eyes, and an expression of peace, as if the lullaby had lulled it into eternal sleep. Inside the chest, a small brass plate read, "Agnes, forever asleep, 1898. The house was not a refuge. It was a tomb. Days passed without sleep. Sometimes the lullaby turned into a stifled cry. sometimes into distorted childish laughter. Ilara found an old diary in the library, belonging to Beatrice, the house's original owner. Her grief had been sealed into the foundations of the house. That night, Ilara carried the chest into the garden and buried it beneath a withered rose bush. "Sleep, Agnes," she whispered. That night, the music stopped, but the house was no longer silent. It was waiting. Sarah had searched for the house for months. A new city, a new job, a fresh start. Her 7-year-old daughter, Mia, needed stability after the divorce, and Sarah needed the calm that only a perfect suburban home could offer. The duplex she found seemed ideal. 2 floors, a small backyard, and quiet neighbors, or so it appeared. Next door lived Mr. Bennett, a man in his 70s with thin-framed glasses and a straw hat he wore even indoors. His garden was immaculate, a precise explosion of color and order that contrasted sharply with the small jungle Sarah and Mia had turned their own yard into within days. Mr. Bennett was friendly, maybe too friendly. "Good morning, Sarah." "Good morning, Mia," he would say every day, watering his roses or trimming his hedges. "I see Mia is enjoying her new bedroom. That unicorn wallpaper is lovely." The first time, Sarah thought it was sweet. The second time, a little odd. The third time, when he commented on Mia's bunny pajamas, even though Mia's window faced the backyard, Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. "How did you know about her pajamas, Mr. Bennett?" she asked. "Mia's window faces the back garden." Mr. Bennett chuckled softly. "Oh dear, these old houses have their secrets, and you see many things when you've lived here long enough." After that, his comments became more specific. "Mia seems to have nightmares lately. I hear her crying at night." "You bought new cereal. Didn't Mia prefer oatmeal?" "Yesterday at 8:17 p.m., Mia was jumping on her bed. You should tell her not to. Something might break." The sense of being watched became unbearable. Then Mia began to complain. "Mommy, the smiling man watches me." "What man, sweetheart?" "The one in the wall. Sometimes at night I see him, or I think I do. Just his eyes. They shine." Sarah searched Mia's room again and again. No holes, no cameras, nothing. Until one afternoon, while dusting the shelves, she noticed a small, decorative ventilation grill near the ceiling. Unlike the others, it wasn't sealed. A faint draft slipped through. She unscrewed it. Behind it was not a dusty air duct, but a narrow horizontal gap. A gap that led directly into the neighboring house. And between the slats on the other side, a tiny section had been scraped away, just wide enough for an eye. That night, Sarah set her phone to record, aimed directly at the gap. At around 3 a.m., she heard a faint scraping sound, then silence, and she felt it. The eye, watching. The next morning, she invited Mr. Bennett inside. Later that day, the police arrived. What they found in Mr. Bennett's wall was worse than she could have imagined. Sarah and Mia moved out a week later, but some nights, in the deepest silence, Sarah still feels it. The eye, watching. Laura and David had dreamed of escape. Tired of the city's noise, the sirens at night, and the constant surveillance of social media, they invested their savings in a remote cabin deep in the forest, hours away from any sign of civilization. The land was vast, scattered with ancient pines, and a narrow stream winding through it like a blue vein. The cabin itself was old, its dark wood worn by decades of wind and rain, but it carried a rustic charm that promised peace. The promise was a new beginning, a place where David, an architect obsessed with self-sufficiency, could build his workshop, and where Laura, an artist trapped in creative block, might finally find inspiration in the silence of nature. The first months were idyllic. Clean air, star-filled nights untouched by light pollution, the wind in the trees as their only soundtrack. Then David began digging. Beneath the pantry, he found a sealed underground room, a bunker. Inside, there were marks on the walls, hundreds of them, like days being counted, like prayers carved into concrete, and a rusted bed bolted to the floor. Later, he found a doll. On the back of its head, a faded tag, Sarah, 1978. The journal of the cabin's builder revealed the truth. A father who believed purity could be preserved. A child locked away from the evil of the world. A prison disguised as protection. That night, Laura heard scratching from beneath the house, and David answered a voice that wasn't there. "Not yet, Sarah. The world is still dangerous. Daddy will protect you." Laura fled into the forest, leaving the cabin behind. But beneath its foundations, something remained, waiting. If this story gave you chills, subscribe now, because next time we're going deeper into the bunker, and we might not make it out.